unlike a lot of other music shows, my show is where you go and discover artists you've never heard of before. Most of what people want to listen to is usually stuff they're familiar with. So if, even if you take one of my favorite music shows, Summit Square, even in that where they're breaking down music, you're picking artists that like a lot of people know. And so if I had to, like, we're talking about Hans Zimmer, there was one where he's breaking down a song that he created for Dune. And yeah, obviously if you're going to interview Hans G, then like, yeah, I want to listen to that. Or, Semisonic and how they created Closing Time or something. And so I think in that sense that because you may have never heard of John's Effect, or you may have never heard of Alvin Presley or any of the artists that I have on my show, Krantinaari or something. And so for me, because you are discovered who they are, you're not really coming from a space of familiarity. So then you're kind of like jumping in the deep end of it, which I think I wish that more people would be like, let me see what this song's about.
Welcome to Odanta Offline. It's really great to have you here. How are you feeling?
I'm excited. It's just, it actually is more rare than you think that I get interviewed. And then, but I feel like, oh God, I gotta do all the talking now. But no.
Made in India is a phenomenon. I just want to know how it started. Was it a musical journey or was it more of you being very good at asking questions?
Actually, I've kind of always been in the audio space for most of my career. And particularly radio, because I started out as a radio journalist. And then coming back to India, I realized I couldn't be a journalist and do radio, which is where I was mainly working as a radio presenter. And as anyone who starts their own thing, you're kind of jaded by something. And so I got a little jaded by radio. I felt quite, creatively stifled in the sense I couldn't do the things I really wanted to do. And I pretty much, I'm still living my RJ life, but just in podcasting. Like, so basically as an RJ, I would just be like, oh, check out this cool new song, thing, and that's it. But now I'm doing the same thing, but through a podcast. I'm like, oh my God, check out this cool new song, this cool new artist, if they're talking to me. And so that's my podcast as well. So that's, I think, more around me and the show really is about music discovery. And it's about being able to listen to something and be like, oh my God, this sounds awesome. And I want the whole world to hear it. And I think that's the thing that I feel like I missed on radio, which was that being able to tell someone about a cool new song I found. And that's the reason why. And I think that's also something that me might have in common, which is about this country, right? It's about being able to find something and get excited and want to tell the world about it. And so that was, I think, what Made in India kind of represented it. And then, yes, of course, interviewing people was part of the work that I do as a journalist. And then that kind of translated into like me being a host and so on. So pretty much that then comes secondary, kind of came with kind of everything. But yeah.
Fine. So, so since you started out as a journalist and then you ventured here, did you yet find like some hiccups, right, when you started our podcasting? Because I remember I was up with a friend with us, he was starting on his podcast and the entire recording got wiped out after the session, right? So like, what did you experience when you were starting? Because everything you might not know when you start out.
Yeah, I think the things that I guess I did not realize is a lot of the tech side of things, in the sense that like, not in terms of like how to be in front of a mic or anything like that. I'm so used to that, or how to record well. The thing that is like things like distribution and like understanding what an RSS feed was and all that kind of stuff.
What is an RSS feed?
That's how you distribute podcasts. So basically an RSS feed is where all your audio file and your data and your episode description and the artwork sort of rests on your feed, and then apps like Apple and Spotify pull from that, and that's when
code, some sort of code.
Yeah, everything is some sort of code. Well, this is this matrix. No, but it is so. It's very different from with distribution and with podcasting, a lot of the podcast apps are pulling from a feed. It's not like you submit to it, but like every time you update it, automatically sort of, it reflects on, say, a Google Podcast or Overcast or whatever. So I think that side of things sort of took me some time to get used to, and that's where I felt like I was learning a lot, because the technical side of things are things that I didn't really know as well. But the audio and the making people feel comfortable and doing the interview, that was the easy stuff. Yeah.
But the tech part, seriously, what gets everyone.
I'm sure it does. I think that's the question I get asked the most. But how do I just work goods to and I'm like, I get to. I was there once.
But then I'm sure like a lot of your, not just in terms of distribution, but in terms of the tech you had, like sound quality and everything, I'm sure it upgraded a lot, right, compared to when you were starting out to now, obviously. So like, what's the difference that you've seen? Like once you get used to, once you like, people that like, come into your channel, or like, sponsor the what on and like how it works. Like, do you see a big difference like in terms of your own podcast, or do you feel like it all is very you and you managed it well?
So I was really lucky that I've worked with great studios, because again, we're recording music. You're not going to be using like some kind of dubbing studio or, so it's not like you're going to be using any normal studio, because I would literally, when I started writing studios to be able to do made it in, the first thing I would ask them was like, can you mic and drum kit? Because it's very specific mics for that, and we have those kind of setups. And there were certain places that could, which was like Famous Studio and Mahalakshmi I've used. And then now I've used, my show was with IVF Podcast at one point, and then I'd also worked with great audio engineers as well. And then now I'm working with Island City Studio in COD, and with them, again, it's run by a musician and a drummer himself. And so they really understand how to set up for music, and they understand what, they need to get done to make sure that they get the best kind of recording. So I've been very lucky that I work with good people, which was why the show sounds as good as it does. And it's not just the recording of it, it's then the mixing and mastering and all that, because this is still music that we're creating. And so that's the thing that I feel like is very different from my show and other shows, because I am literally releasing a 3-4 song EP every week, which is a lot. Like artists release songs once in 2-3 years. So it is a lot of work. And I've been really lucky that, the thing that's changed now is that we do video. And video was a no-brainer, because unlike most podcasts near, filming musicians who immediately look super cool. And so I'm like, this is the easy stuff. I don't have to make it look fancy or anything. It's just them playing their music is enough. And so that's one thing that changed, having more of a video element to the podcast.
Got it. So, I know you guys have like a Mossad and research team. You guys will find out something, I didn't know, from the childhood or for a guest or something. So how does your process of discovery come about, from start to finish?
So I really pride my abilities for research as well as my teams, because I have taught them well. Yeah. But again, I think this also comes from having a journalist background, which is that your research is where the real meat lies. Like, if you don't do your research, you're not going to be able to ask the right questions, and you're not going to actually know the person who's sitting opposite you. And so that was super important for me, was being able to do unbelievable amounts of research. And so whenever artists, when I ask them certain questions, I know some weird thing about them. And I'm like, oh my God, and you know this actually. But that actually came from the fact that, for me at least, that was the way in which I'm able to ask the right questions. And that's where the interviews end up being so much more fruitful, because it also helps you get to a place with the person that you're talking to where they let their guard down. And when they let their guard down, they're going to be more open with you. They're going to be talking to you about things that they didn't realize they could talk to you about, because they actually feel like you're invested in them. And I think that was a hugely important part of doing good research. And it's also possible that some people don't have much of a presence online, which is where then my interview skills kick in and I ask them the right questions. And so, yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, again, a lot of the time, like if I know them personally, I probably call up people that they know. If they're on social media, I'm literally every single post that you ever written in your life has been looked at by my research team. So yeah, it's pretty hardcore. Like, hey, this post that you put in 2004, you said this and you put up this picture. I did do that. So like, yeah, that's pretty much the space that I'm in. So yeah.
If you like what are they good?
That was the fork that I made.
Amazing. So coming to music, right? I would really like to know what is a particular type of music that, despite what you listen to otherwise, you might listen to in your personal time, or just stuff that you've enjoyed for a while now. Like, what is that sort of music for you?
Oh my gosh. I think for me, so the thing is, and I think most of my team realize this, is that I've actually listened to a lot of, I do also like, I do like a lot of instrumental and stuff. And that could be in the electronica space, that could be, so I do like stuff that doesn't necessarily have to have vocals in it. So I think that, and then there is like a lot of that music that ends up being, that I find that my listen really cool, and then no one would like, and then no one went to like, what, this sounds like something you would listen to. But I think that, I mean, it sounds like a genre of music, but like I'm not too bothered if there aren't vocals in it. Like I think there's this idea that, you know, when you listen to popular music, that, oh my God, there has to be vocals and it has to be a hook, it has to be a verse, a chorus, and all that. And sometimes it doesn't have to be. And I think I'm more used to talking about the stuff that I'm not so sure of. So I think with music in general, and I have to be very honest here and say that music is unbelievably subjective. Right. Because the things that I like might not be the same things as you like. And even with artists that I think are really good, I might have liked their first album and not their second album. And that doesn't mean that I don't like the artist. It's just that I'd really feel this particular song on this particular album. But like that thing that he did that time, I loved it. Or I may not have liked something that they've done like when they started out, but then their latest thing is amazing. And so it doesn't, you know, I feel like artists also go through their own journey and humbling journey. They go through their own trajectory of and life, and things influence them in different ways. And there are, I think, moments in time where an artist will make something that I would really like. And so it doesn't always have to be that I like everything they've ever made. And that doesn't mean that just because I like one thing and not the other thing, that it means that they're not good at what they do. So I think, yeah, music is super subjective. And the stuff that, and again, it's another day, the stuff that you might like right now. And I feel like, you know, as, you know, you're super moody. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll listen to this right now. And then I'm feeling like fire. I want to listen to like some shouting. And then sometimes you're like, oh, man, I'm going to listen to shouting. You know, give us a bellow, all the stuff. I just want to listen. And most zone out. So you could be, it's also not even related to whether you like a genre of music or not. It could be just like the time of day and how you're feeling. So
yeah. But does it like take you, like I know like the way I listen to music is I get stuck onto something. I will listen to a lot of that stuff. Like I remember getting into rock, like classical rock. And then not getting over that, I think I was a little bit too pretentious because my family was like, this guy's on vacation and he's just like trying to act like he's, you know, still off that rock music. Yeah, so it always, and then it took me like almost a summer to get, you know, the hip hop, because a lot of my friends probably listen to hip hop, so I get back into that. So does it like stay for you, or does it always depend like on your mood? Like, but in like if you see a year, would it be based on like a particular type of music, or does it keep changing?
I mean, Christmas time, I'm listening to Christmas karaoke. I saw that. No, but like, I agree with you. Different times of year, different moods. I think for me, it's more like it definitely is that like, because I'm working all the time, when I'm listening to music, having vocals in it is probably because vocals are very distracting. Like while I'm typing something out, I'm just getting not really listening. And so I kind of vocals and really I concentrate on the vocals too much. The other is that I, again, if I'm going on a road trip, I have like a road trip playlist. That might not be the same playlist that I would listen to when I'm maybe going out on a, or when I'm just before I want to go to bed or something. I'm like, when I feel like listening to something. Though I rarely do listen to anything before I go to bed. But I'm more of like, I listen to stuff in the mornings and in the daytime. And then, yeah, I genuinely think it depends on occasion and with anything else. Yeah.
When you make a playlist for someone else, especially, what goes into it, like when you make a playlist for someone else?
So, I mean, it really depends on the person. So, I usually try to understand what is the kind of music they like. Because I can't make a playlist for someone if I'm... So, even a road trip, I might want to put stuff that's maybe, power ballads and, like old school, like T-Rex and U2 and, stuff that basically you want to jam. I don't know. And someone might think that putting like a full-on electronica playlist might be something they want to do. So like road trips also, even if you're talking about a road trip, it means something to one person and means something to someone else. And I think with a playlist, it's super personal. But once I get to know someone and I understand the kind of music that they like, then I'm like, done. I'm going to now like hear all the songs that I think you're going to like and you're going to love them. And so I definitely feel like getting to know someone and what they like and the in their moods, right? What are the things that they want to listen to at different times? And then I would always like to know, okay, who are the artists that you like are listening to right now? I don't talk about like, who are your favorite artists? Because I feel like that changes all the time. So I'd usually ask like, who are you listening to right now? And that's easier. It's a much easier question to ask someone than like, who are your favorite artists of all time? What? I have so many. It really depends like what part of my life. Like, I was really into like Boyz II Men in the 90s and then Third Eye Blind. And so now I'm also into other stuff, right? So I would say that I would ask them the question of what I was doing right now helps me at least figure out what that would be. And so that is really helpful. So I would definitely say I'd interview the person before we can get yes for that. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, when you talk about films, right? I'm sure you've seen a lot of biographies of musicians or like the movie making process. And right, so in those kind of films, right, what do you think the filmmakers or whoever's involved in it get wrong most of the time?
Oh, get wrong. So, I mean, this would be like a job that I'd love to do, is being a music supervisor. To film, because I feel like that is so my jam, like knowing what kind of music to put in at one scene and what kind of tone you want that to be. And that's like a really... And as me, I feel like that's the thing that I'm so good at, and I've had people who approach me who wanted me to do stuff like that, but I've never ever had the chance to. But I do. I love a film soundtrack. I mean, growing up, a great OST. I've discovered so much music through soundtracks. Like one of my favorite soundtracks where you wouldn't even have thought were, there was this, it's based on a comic book called Spawn. And that was like, it was a time where metal and electronic music were coming together, which is where like Matrix and all that was like the same thing. You had this like hardcore metal and then like electro. And so in the same way, and then Mission Impossible too, like Foo Fighters and Brian May did a song together in that. And so the music that I discovered and the artists that I discovered while I was listening to, watching a TV show or watching a film or whatever it is, like, oh my God, I have to like, which is why Shazam is the greatest thing ever. I was like, oh my God, now I can be sitting in a bar, I'm like, oh, I have any Shazam this. And yeah, so I'm always trying to discover music. So when I listen to something, I'm like, oh my God, I want to know what song this isn't and sang it. No. Put it on my Apple Music, And so I don't know if it's something that filmmakers maybe get wrong, but I feel like I think the thing that I wish I could do in films was this, because I've never worked in film or TV ever. I've always been only in the audio space, whether it was radio and broadcast, and then now podcasting. So, yeah, in that sense, I think that's the stuff that I really would, if I've ever got into filmmaking at all. I know I've completely evicted your question, but I've answered it differently.
That's fine. It's as much as you want to talk about. But then when you say film soundtracks and TV soundtracks, I mean, sure, there's a part where they license music that's already been made. But has there, like, as you want to get the recommendation, what are those, like, original soundtracks that were created for a TV show, like Successions, like, we never skipped that intro, but, like, I know the credits were. What's that one thing for you? So if you could ever, like, pinpoint it.
I mean, the role of Bollywood is that, is it? Like, every film is making original music.
Yeah.
So, if I had to go down that route, the Chata was, like, literally one of the most epic soundtracks. It was so good. That's road trips.
And that is a road trip.
But in original music, like, if we're talking, like, theme song, I think it was going to completely evade me, but I know that Trent Reznor, what was the soundtrack that he did? It's kind of like, Trent Reznor for, like, Nine Inch Nails did a soundtrack for, then you have the stand-up, like, Hans. I would try Hans Zimmer. Yeah.
That's in every franchise.
It was like big horns.
Yeah. I remember on Revenge of the Sith watching it for the first time. And then there's this final fight. I don't know if you watched the movie.
Is that Hans?
That job. It doesn't feel like, it was really dramatic. And then the dialogue and everything gets in the way. But the music is doing.
And how dare you interrupt the musical score? That's a bit of songs dialogue. Ooh,
some really lame stuff like, you're not my friend anymore. Dropping that in the middle of, like, some epic music. Okay. So, going back to the ground going up right in there after you started on Made in India. What are times like, of course, like, lots of people were coming in, but what are times like, man, why aren't more people listening? Especially since it's about a niche, right, in the music in India. So were there any times like that, like, you felt like,
people like that right now? Why don't know? Show that. But I think it's also with music shows, again, it's very subjective.
right?
There may be some music that people will like and not, but I'm hoping. The other thing is that I'm also, unlike a lot of other music shows, my show is where you go and discover artists you've never heard of before. Most of what people want to listen to is usually stuff they're familiar with. So if, even if you take one of my favorite music shows, Summit Square, even in that where they're breaking down music, you're picking artists that like a lot of people know. And so if I had to, like, we're talking about Hans Zimmer, there was one where he's breaking down a song that he created for Dewar. And yeah, obviously if you're going to interview Hans G, then like, yeah, I want to listen to that. Or, Semisonic and how they created Closing Time or something. And so I think in that sense that because you may have never heard of John's Effect, or you may have never heard of Alvin Presley or any of the artists that I have on my show, Krantinaari or something. And so for me, because you are discovered who they are, you're not really coming from a space of familiarity. So then you're kind of like jumping in the deep end of ocean, which I think I wish that more people would be like, let me see what this song's about. And yeah, I think that's the thing that maybe holds back my show a little bit, because I'm not into being super famous people or into big people who make great music but you may have never heard of. About the jam.
I think that's the problem with recommendation in the end, isn't it? I remember a lot of people telling me that they would like stuff on Odanta they've never watched before. But the thing is, who knows those posters, right, when you're scrolling past them? Right, so it's like, it's a double-edged sword. Like, they do want that. I feel it's an ideal scenario in their heads. But then when it actually comes to it, It's hard because I feel like discovering new music is even tougher than discovering a new movie, right? Because
Oh, you're investing way more time in it. Does that feel like, oh, this is...
yeah, and the thing is, it's audio, right? Just audio. I think when you watch something, if I mean not to get cruel, but if a person caught enough, you might go along with 10 more minutes, right? That is pretty true. I mean, I've done it.
Weird. That's just... I hate it. One I like, and with any, does it matter what you...
And no, I'm just saying, like, for an example, right? Maybe that's the reason, or maybe it's like
No, now I know why, what kind of movies you're watching. You're like, whatever's not that eye candy. Nah.
actually that was a phase though, and like, and then I got out of it. So and then I got a little bit cooler and started doing stuff for myself, which is all really good.
Fair enough.
Okay, you mentioned right, song changes ways of moods. Your song, the way what you listen to changes on your dying people. So right now, what's that song on your playlist and what?
Gosh, you could create playlist. Or I'm listening to, as told, a lot of very American stuff. I rediscovered a song recently by this band called Kite and Yes.
And what's the one?
The Yes. So YEKH. And they're they're like an indie rock band.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a song called Sacrilege, which is so good. And then I'm in this space of like rediscovering artists that I used to listen to. So the artist called Lindy Hawk, and her song Magic was really good. And then, yeah, these are like some of the artists I'm listening to right now. When I this like lady rockers zone at the moment and just want to listen to women rock it out, and I just like really enjoy that. Another is this punk band called the Tigre, and they have this song called Decepticon that was funny. Ringtone for a really long time, and then I'm like, oh, I missed this. So yeah, so I'm listening to a lot of like women rocking out, and I'm just feeling the rage at the moment. So yeah, that's the kind of space that I'm in, and that's the kind of
bit space to be in. Yeah, man. I think you also mentioned that music making takes its time, right? It could take a year or two. I mean, with filmmaking, everything will take a little bit of time. But I think film is a little bit easier to understand. But I think a lot of fans, although who do appreciate when the album comes out, but are really, they don't understand why it takes a lot of time. So if you have an sort of insight on why, like, especially good music, what goes into it, and I'm sure like they do think about it, but actually what goes into music making?
I mean, I think this is a question you should definitely ask a musician, because I'm not a musician. I'm sure that I ask. Yeah, but I also ask the same question. I'm like, why is it taking us so long? What up now? But I think with any creative endeavor, there is a process that it goes through. Like, first sort of figuring out what it is that you want to write, and then honing that, and then composing it, and then, jabbing with other people and putting, so there's a lot of things that elements that sort of come together to create it. And then even when you record it and then you're mixing it and you're mastering it, there's like so much that needs to go in. This is why it takes, when you're saying a film takes that much time, so does music. There is a huge investment that goes into it. And then you get songs that are made overnight in a bedroom, and then they're also amazing. And so I think I'm so sorry. But I think the other aspect of this is that there is music that gets made that will take years. There's this band that I really like. They're this like prog rock, prog metal band called Paradigm Shift. And I got them on the show when they released their sophomore album. And the sophomore album came out 10 years after their debut album. So 10 years between their debut album and their second album. And then, yeah. And so I think it depends. And then because it is a huge investment, it does take a lot. And, you're also navigating being able to earn, because being a musician, doesn't give you like a salaried income. You have some kind of like retirement plan or medical insurance or anything. So if you're trying to make money to tide yourself over and then pay for the thing that you want to make as well. So it's a lot. It's a massive investment to try to be a musician, personally and professionally and monetarily and every. So any.
Let's hang here, I guess. She want to be Phillies, she want to be music, all the bits. Takes it, especially in a country like India. And
Yeah, no.
I'm sure a lot of parents wouldn't progress them than before, but yet it's not the easiest time.
It's sad. It was good face. Yeah, not putting some fish.
Yeah, so that's not it.
Okay, so before we do the last question, I want to get some recommendations out of you. It's gonna be sort of a rapid fire, like you can think about it.
And
Your favorite TV shows to stream?
oh my gosh. Insecure. A brilliant show. Issa Rae. Such a fangirl. So upset that it's over, but I also
Beautiful.
yeah,
Season 6 on there.
yeah, season 6. But yeah, so it ended, but it was such a great show. That, and if I had to go way back, one of my favorite shows of all time, there are two actually British shows. What's called Black Books, and it was like 3 seasons, and the other is a show called The Mighty Boosh. So yeah, The Mighty Boosh is a bit more. I really like surrealist humor, and so The Mighty Boosh is a bit there and surrealist inspires.
Man. And in the artist that you would ask people to watch out for right now?
Ooh. I would say, I would actually say, I mean, I just mentioned it earlier, I would say Outlet for sure. There's a rapper called Krantinaari. She is just this fiery person, and I think that her music has the ability to do so much. But it's hard, like, being a woman and rapping. And there are literally the whole of the Northeast. Like, just every artist from the Northeast. I'm such a fangirl. They're the coolest people, and the music.
Great and track with that. I remember watching one of your Instagram with very IT spoke to people from Shimon or something. I'm not sure. But
Was it Chats of there from Lavo?
I think so. Yeah, the bunch of young kids is laughing around.
They're so bad. Yeah, I've been dying to get them on my show for years, and then they came on tour while they were here from me, and I'm like, let's get this band, right? And yeah, I've been such a fan of their music for a long time.
Great. Whose podcast do you listen to?
Oh gosh. We talk about India or international? I can't read them. So one of my favorites is this show called The Sporkful, and it's hosted by a guy called Dan Pashman, and he basically, I think the tagline for our show is that we talk about food to learn more about people, and I love the show because there's so much that I learn from it, and so he has this wonderful way of like creating like connections between people and food. And so I just, one of the latest episodes I heard is that there's a restaurant called Wendy's, and then it's called a Shabbat and Wendy's or something like that. And it's like a Jewish, like it's their Jewish Sabbath, and then they have it at this like Wendy's, and it's very sweet, and it's all really nice. And then one of my favorite things, he did like a 3-part series as well, called the Aleppo sandwich. So Aleppo in Syria was obviously war-torn, but there was this one sandwich shop that all these news journalists absolutely adored. And then one of the things was that they were trying to find the Aleppo sandwich and figure out like where to go. And so that whole looking for it and finding out people's connections to food, during like one of the worst times, that city and that place in sea was really interesting. And then the thing that he did during the pandemic is that he made like his own pasta shape. Like, and that was like a whole series that he did. That was like, oh my God, how do you make a brand new pasta shape? There's so many. So yeah, so he did that. And so, and how do you corner like a market, like to make your own pasta shape?
I wouldn't even know what.
Where do you begin? Like, I learned about, like, pasta, the shape molds, and, like, who makes them, and, like, wow, it's so fascinating. But, yeah, so definitely, the Scorpful is one of my favorites. In India, particularly, I mean, the show, I'm so plungy, but a show that we make on Lit Pickers, and I really like a show called Simplified. I'm a huge fan of the show, and I've been listening to it since the day it started. And yeah, I mean, we also run like a whole bunch of shows that I really love, and you know, some of them are finished, and a lot of them are seasonal. So I would say that for me, these are the ones I listen to regularly because they come out weekly and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's like on them. I think I mentioned Song Explorer. There are a ton. I would keep like recommending my cousin on the Palace Go. Man.
Okay. Toughest one yet. Nirvana or Libifa?
Nirvana, that's not even a choice. Yeah. Shame on you. It's the Kurt and Dave both on him.
Eminem or Jay-Z?
Jay-Z, yeah, answer.
Yeah, I feel the same, but okay. And the last one, I think this is the sweetest one I have on. The sweetest one I've written down. What do you think your listeners take back from Made in India? And what would you like them to do?
I think, that, and I think that's what I was talking about, like giving the kind of spark of when you listen to something, you're like, God, this sounds so easy. And how did I not know that this thing existed in the world? And I think that feeling I think that's what I want people to take away. I want them to go, I want to keep having this feeling where I get to listen to something I've never heard before, or get to have a little bit of like fun, because a lot of my conversations are super silly. And even though you're getting to know the artist, you're getting to know them on a very personal level, but
That could happen in band
you get to not just get to know them, but you get to enjoy getting to know them. Like you should, I always have this feeling you should feel like you want to just sit and hang with us, and that's what it should feel like. You should feel that comfortable. Shouldn't be just like super formal, like question and answer kind of thing, but it should just feel like you're kind of overhearing a conversation, like, randomly just landed up at, and you're like, oh, well, easy as song. So yeah, that's kind of how the kind of feelings I feel you should get when you're tuned into being in band.
Sometimes really review something up.
Okay.
So I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And I'm sure I'm going to continue listening to Made in the Day. Sure it's going to keep killing it.
Then everyone, like, Odanta should totally recommend.
Yeah, I think the first one we added in Odanta was great.
And so. Indeed.